Hello, my loves. Guess what we're going to talk about today? I would like to say that I got especially dressed up in my workout gear for this video, but you know what? This is how I spend pretty much all of my time, other than when I'm recording. And so I want to talk about being a woman in your 40s or plus and balancing hormones and entrepreneurship and fitness and parenthood and life, along with being an entrepreneur. And watching all the younger generation come through with their social media skills, and they're all about it, right? They know how to work the social media game. And while we grew up with social media, what came to us a little bit later, but what we grew up with that, we just don't have the same level of exposure to it from a very young age that, people 10, 20 years younger than us are. But that is our secret weapon. So firstly, let me just say I am 55. I'll be 56 this year, and I'm just getting started. I feel in the prime of my life. I want you to know that as a 40 plus woman, your voice matters. And the level of wisdom and experience that you have in your life is unmatched, right? You've been through it. I know you've been through it, and you have the t-shirt and you have learned the lessons, and now you're ready to impart that knowledge. The other thing is, I want you to know that you don't have to compete with younger people. One of the things that I have been telling myself for years now, I've been online since the early 2000s. And as I have become older and older, my audience is also my age. So I'm not trying to come onto the internet and try and find clients that are in their early 20s. That is not my market. My market are women my age. And so most of my clients are of this age, which means that when I'm talking about social media strategies and all the other things that I teach to help them grow their businesses, they get to do it from a place of alignment with the skills that they know and the skills that they want to use. And they get to teach it in the way that they want to teach it, right? And we need more women, 40 plus, 50 plus on the YouTubes, 100% for sure. And so your voice could be one of them. But I've thrown a lot of things in the title. So let me just, it's going to be a bit of a ramble, but if you stick with me, I'm sure there's going to be something in here that is really valuable to you. So if you are in a space of feeling it right now because you're deep in perimenopause and you're like, I don't know what I've got to give. I feel like, my best years are behind me. I feel like, I'm aging before my very eyes, all those things. And you're starting to feel really uncomfortable with being online, and you're feeling like, yeah, mostly the thing that I hear is I feel like my best days are behind me. And it's so not true. So if you're in that space, listen up. Okay, so where do we start? Let's start with fucking perimenopause and what a hell ride that is. So for me, I started going through perimenopause in my early 40s, and I'm very in tune with my body, luckily, and I knew something wasn't right. And so I went to the GP, went to have some specialist tests, where they stick the ultrasound up you so they can have a look at what's going on inside. So I went and had that fun procedure, the joys of being a fucking woman. And in my early 40s, I was told your left ovary has shut up shop, your right ovary is still limping along. Cue the most torturous 8 years of my life. I just want to let you know that on the other side of menopause, life is like the angels sing, but perimenopause, absolute bitch. So here are some of the things that showed up for me during perimenopause and the thoughts that I was having and how it was impacting me as an online entrepreneur. Well, the first thing was every time I looked in the video, all I could see was my aging face. And it used to freak me out. I'm using a filter. Yeah, I am. It's just the Zoom filter, right? Because I want to look good and I want to present my best self, right? And so, yeah, I'm going to use whatever filters are fucking available to me. Of course I am, because it means I'm going to show up. So back then, though, we didn't have the filter thing, and I just had to soldier through it. And it was always about the best lighting. I do have really good light, natural light. It was all about the lighting, but I knew I had to find a way to start to feel good in front of the camera. And that was when I started things like filler and Botox, and that was pretty much it, facials and things like that. Because I thought I'm investing in this stuff because this is the moneymaker. And I don't show up if I don't feel like I look good. And, can I just say, YouTube comments are fucking harsh. Like, I don't get this level of harshness on any other platform, but whatever, right? That's the other thing about being in your 50s, don't really give much of a fuck, but it's like, whoa. Anyway, so I did. I started to get filler and Botox and start to put makeup on. I never used to wear makeup. And I used to put my best self forward. And that was how I got through for a long time. I actually have had all the filler removed from my face. I haven't had Botox in about 2 years, I think. And I like my face better this way. I'm not saying I will never not have it again, but I just felt like, when I look in the Zoom filter, or when I look in my phone on Instagram and I use a little filter there, like nothing crazy, just something that's going to even out my skin tone mostly. I feel so much better and I show up and I feel like that matches who I am inside. So the first thing that I did was I just spent more time on my appearance and I used what was within my resources at the time so that I felt like I looked good so that I could show up with confidence without being distracted by what the fuck is happening there, because that was throwing me. So that was one thing. Problem solved, right? So whatever you need to do to show up and feel confident, just do it. Don't judge yourself for it, right? Filters are there to be used, people. And yeah, it doesn't mean I'm not real. I would like to be able to just turn it on and off while I'm recording, but I can't. Just to show you, like, it's not a massive difference. I don't look like some shriveled up old prune without the filter, but you can definitely, my lines here are not as deep, things like that, right? Skin tone's more even. I will tell you. So do whatever you want to do and don't judge yourself for it. Just be okay with it, right? The other thing that was happening during my perimenopause years was I definitely had a lot of brain fog, and it was like baby brain. And I was doing a lot of podcast interviews and things like that at like when it was getting to its peak. And I can't tell you, I'd invested in a company that we're like a PR firm, and they pitched me to a lot of like high level podcasts. It was great. It was amazing. But I'm there and I am showing up and I am losing my train of thought in the middle of a sentence. Like I was really going for it. And I would have these sorts of go off on a little tangent, and then I'd be like, I can't get it back. I can't for the life of me get it back. And I would have to say on the fucking podcast, look, I'm really sorry. I've got perimenopause brain right now and I've completely lost my train of thought. So I need you to help me get back on that train. Edit it out. Don't edit it out. I don't care if you edit this out because this happens. And I would more often than not just say, can you just leave it in there? Because I just felt like this is real. It's happening to people in real time all day, every day, right? And so I just remember one of the strategies that I used was like, keep your sentences short and don't go off any fucking tangents. And sometimes I would, and I would lose the plot, and then we'd have to get, back on track and all the rest of it. But just short answers, short answers, short answers, and answer the question, and then let them ask another question. So that was definitely a strategy that I had to use. And a lot of the stuff that I was going through mentally was absolutely about my best years are behind me. Why couldn't I have done all of those things that I said I was going to do like 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Like, why is it taking me so long? I'm never going to get there. All those things, right? And I had to, like, that was hard. That was actually really challenging. So some of the other perimenopause symptoms that I had were nighttime anxiety. So that stuff would come home to roost at nighttime. And I was definitely getting the nighttime anxiety was the biggest thing, definitely getting hot flushes and things like that. But the brain going and the nighttime anxiety were the two things that were really taking me out. And so I just had to create strategies for those. And when it was getting pretty bad, what's always worked for me and my hormones is traditional Chinese medicine. My hormones from the day I got my period were an absolute asshole. Like, absolutely. I've had 3 surgeries on my ovaries to get rid of cysts. I've had a lot of my hormones have just made me a hormone. Like, I was a door slammer. When I was growing up, I slammed doors like nobody's business at home. And when I moved in with my first boyfriend, all the doors were hanging off the hinges, and the pill just made it worse. Like, I could see why people murder, right? During their hormone phases. Yeah. So that has been an ongoing thing through my whole life. And then like the perimenopause was getting bad. I had used Chinese medicine when my hormones were really bad at times. And I don't know why I would go off it and on it, but in traditional Chinese medicine, what typically tends to happen is they balance the system. So it's not like they fix problems, they bring your system back into balance and then it's right. And I guess life and hormones and everything else, they go out of balance. And I was never quite quick enough to get back in and get it happening again so that I could just be normal. But I remember just going, okay, I've got to go and deal with this. And I went to see my beautiful Chinese herbal medicine lady. And I'm not kidding, within my nighttime anxiety was gone within 4 nights, and my hot flushes were gone within a week, maybe 2 weeks at max, maybe 10 days. I don't think it was 2 weeks. And I don't like drinking Chinese herbs. They taste like balls to me. So I would have her just crush everything up and put it in these little capsules. And I was swallowing like 60 of these freaking tablets a day. And I think that's why I tend to go off it. But it worked. It brought my system back into balance. And I was feeling really good. I also knew I had to really work on my mental health because I knew the hormones could send me loopy. I also knew that I was going to have to pay more attention to my health and to stay active and really focus on what my body could do because it was changing. Like, physically, it was changing. And the ways that I had trained to drop a couple of kilos if I needed to, that wasn't working anymore, things like that. So I knew I just forget about like body looking a certain way. Let's just get it like feeling good. And so I focused on those things. I doubled down on my health. Like, I've always been somebody that's been into fitness and health and eating well and things like that. But it was like I doubled down on that. I did all of that. And the Chinese herbs did bring me back into balance. And then, so we're going back to when are we talking about? We're going to 2027 now. So yeah, I was well and truly menopausal by the time I was 50. I was over in the US. I'd been on a speaking tour over there. My partner came over, and the day that he was supposed to arrive in the US, my period was supposed to be on like that day. And like, my period was never regular up until like, I think it was after I had my kid. Like, it was well after I had my kids. I had like I don't know, an 8-year window where I actually had regular periods. Maybe it was less than that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But my period was due on the day that Dave was supposed to arrive. And I'm like, well, that'd be my freaking luck, wouldn't it? We're going to travel around the US for 3 weeks and have a wow of a time, and I'm going to have my period. Anyway, I didn't get it. And I got home and I didn't get my period for like 8 months or something like that. And was like, oh, okay, I think this is a thing. And then I was annoyed because I got it like before the 12-month mark. And that threw a spanner in the works. Like, all my hormones went haywire. Then I didn't get another one for like 10 months or 8 months or something. And then I got that one again. My hormones were all over the place. But then after that, I never had another one. And by the time I was 50, I had been through menopause. Like, I was fully menopausal. And all of the worry and the fear and the stress and the doubt and my best years are behind me, all of those thoughts fell away because I actually felt better than I'd ever felt. I didn't have ovarian pain anymore. I didn't have that heavy feeling in my lower body. My mood was more stable than it had ever been. Like I'm a fairly highly strung kind of person. I'm chill, but I don't know, I'm an Aries and I'm the oldest child and I've been through trauma and all that stuff. So like I'm pretty high wired, right? And so yeah, I've never felt, and we're like 5 years or more in now, I've never felt better. I feel like I'm aging backwards. I feel like I'm just getting started. I don't have any distractions around hormones, brain fog, any of that stuff anymore. So if you're going through it right now, I didn't have any HRT, I haven't had anything other than just the Chinese herbs and just doubling down on my health, right? And that was all I did to get through it. And I'm on the other side of it, amazing. So if you're going through it right now, just know that when it passes, it's probably going to feel amazing. And we're taught to think that menopause is the end. And I think I did go through a phase. I've got 2 kids, and I think I did go through a phase of like, oh, well, I won't be able to have any kids anymore. Not that I was going to, but I'd had my tubes tied after my second one. So it's like, it wasn't like had this desire to have another child, but part of me was like, oh, there it goes, my ability to have a child. And that was like a minute. And other than that, yeah, I feel amazing. At 55, I'm in great shape. I did not know that I can look and feel this good at 55. Didn't know that. And I want you to know that you can too. So the hormone thing is one thing, right? The other thing is raising kids. And whether we like it or not, if you're a woman and you're watching this, then we do tend to take the bulk of it. I don't want to be generalizing, but if you're in my kind of era, then we pretty much, we were the ones to take care of the kids. And I had left my ex-husband and then found out 2 weeks later I was pregnant with my daughter. So I had a baby on my own. It was a very, that divorce and other things cued 10 years or more of being in and out of court very regularly. So that was a period of my life that was very, very stressful as well. And I'm trying to be a good mum, had my taekwondo school running back then, all those things. So it was pretty full on. But being a mum of young kids, making sure their well-being is okay because, they were seeing things that were going on at home and, their dad was just a dick and telling them awful things about, stuff you're not supposed to do, right? So, but it was pretty contained, right? Because my kids were like here. They were like, I could hug them and not let them leave the house if I didn't want to and things like that. And so that part of parenting, it felt hard because it was very hands-on. My son had ADHD, and so it felt like a lot. And I was running my business. I had a taekwondo school, so I was out teaching 4 nights a week at the time. It was maybe even 5 nights a week. And I would have a sitter come in and sit in the house with the kids while I was out teaching and all that stuff. So I had a lot of things going on, and there was a lot of financial pressure and things like that. So it was actually a really hard time, but it didn't feel as hard compared to when my kids were going through their teenage years. And, my daughter has an eating disorder and various things that go along with that. So that has been like my heart walking around outside my body and bleeding all over the place. And my son had his own mental health challenges, a lot of stuff that stems from, high school stuff and their dad really. And so my kids have been in and out of hospital. They've been in and out of, mental health clinics to deal with their issues. My son admitted himself like quite a few years ago now, and was in the clinic for like 12 weeks or something like that, and came out, and he's been so good ever since. Like, he has his moments, but that was the only time he's needed to go into hospital. My daughter is in and out of hospital, usually at least once a year. And in the beginning, that stuff was very traumatizing because I'm trying to deal with like the bottom falling out of my world. My kids are everything to me. And my bottom was falling out of my world in a way that I could not ever comprehend. I never, ever would have expected for my kids to have the challenges that they had or the depth of the challenges that they would have. And seeing my daughter's eating disorder, it was just soul destroying, right? There's no handbook for that. And so there was about a 3-year period there when it was hell on wheels. And I remember just having this moment of being able to say to myself, okay, worrying about this is not actually helping you. So I'm going through peri-menopause at the same time, mind you. So it's like you can keep worrying and keep being reactive and walking around like a walking, talking nerve ending, or you can choose to worry when you need to worry and not worry when you don't need to worry. And for me, it was a minute by minute moment. Like it was a minute by minute choice where I would have to just keep redirecting my brain away from worst case scenario and, why is this happening to my kids? And, feeling bad and feeling responsible and all the things that we feel, and being able to, at the same time, run my business. And ironically, that was like one of the most successful phases or eras in my business. And it was because I put it down to the fact that I didn't have a lot of time where my brain wanted to cooperate and for me to feel good enough to show up and do my work. Like I'm always going to work very well with my clients. I would say that my work has never been impacted. My client work has never been impacted. No rescheduling, no running late, no complete distraction and inability to do my work. That has never happened. I've always been able to put that aside, do my job, show up and do my job and move on. But the other things like being able to show up and do social media, like I felt like my energy was going to show up online and it was just going to color everything negatively. I felt like if the online world was a big bowl of crystal clear water, I was going to be the black drop of ink that, tainted everything. And I just didn't want to bring that energy online. And I wrote a lot. I didn't do a lot of face to camera stuff or anything like that. I did mostly writing because writing is very cathartic to me. So a lot of my messaging was around writing. And I wrote 2 books around that stage as well. So it was all ways of me just figuring out, I'm going to do something, but what is that thing going to be? And so that's like the story of, the challenges that we go through, right? Whether it's with our children, whether it's going through divorce. So I've been married and divorced 3 times. I've been with Dave 12 years now. So, and we're not married. Don't plan on getting married. Kind of thought we would, but we're not. But very, very happy, right? This relationship's outlasted all of my marriages. And so I had to have a baby on my own and show up and teach my Taekwondo classes. I had to, show up as a woman with a pregnant belly without a husband, and being a martial arts school owner and instructor I took that responsibility very strongly. And for me, it was like living my life the right way and being a good role model. And I got in my head about not being a good role model because I was having a baby without a husband. And like I was really hard on myself, but I did it. I had to show up and teach those classes. And then I have a baby. And then like within a week, I'm back teaching classes again because I have to. It's the only way that I can support my family. And so there have been lots of instances over the years where, going through those divorces and things like that, and just like, oh, fuck, again. And the mortification of it, right? It's like, what the fuck? Anyway, people were probably not even paying attention. They probably didn't even give a shit. But for me, I take the responsibility of being a role model very, very strongly. And I've always felt that way, whether it's because I was the oldest, living in a domestic violent household and needing to lead my younger siblings to safety and just protect them and making sure they were okay. And I've just always had a leadership role of some sort. And Like I take it very seriously. I'm not giving myself these roles. They just tend to show up for me. And my distinction of what was like a correct way of doing life, and I had a very narrow, I guess, framework for what being a role model was about. And it was like, you never do anything wrong. You never make any mistakes. You certainly don't, have a baby on your own. And you certainly don't end up, in these situations. There was so much that I was so hard on. And now this is the beauty of being in your 50s, right? I have like zero judgment for anybody because I've been through it, like most of it. Most of the things that people go through, I've been through and I've weathered the storm, and I'm still a really optimistic person. I see the best in everyone. Like, I think my filter is, I used to have no filter for danger or anything like that, even with all of my childhood experiences. It was just like, no, that was a one off, or, that was then, this is now. And I've always had this really open kind of energy towards people. I still do. But I've noticed that it's like I'm very open and I believe the best in people. But if there's this little thing that goes, hang on, I'm going to go, okay, we don't go any further than this. I don't necessarily go back, but I'm very much about, okay, we need to just sense here. We need some more data about whether it's okay to move forward, right? And that served me so well. I am a very good judge of character and I sense things very early on. And so being in your 50s and being menopausal and, being an empty nester and being in the second act of your life is actually incredible. It's an incredible time. I feel so, so powerful. I feel like all of those lessons that I learned the hard way are coming into roost now because I can articulate them. I'm on the other side of them. I'm not crying about them anymore. There's no trigger or hot spots around any of that stuff because I've just made peace with all of it. And I know that all of those things that I've been through, and I know this is cliche, but things are cliche for a reason. And, everything that I have been through in my life has shaped me and it's made me who I am. And would I go back and change those experiences? I used to say absolutely not because this is what made me me. And I do kind of think that even with different experiences, I still would be me. Would I change the fact that, I was sexually abused when I was a 6-year-old for 4 years? Like, would I go back and change that? It's like, I should want to change it. And for the little girl, I want to change it because that was, traumatic for her. But as the adult now who's healed and on top of it, it's almost like it doesn't matter anymore, right? And so I know that this is who I am. I have deep reserves of empathy for people. I'm very, very empathetic. I have a very strong antenna around people, what's good and what's the truth and what isn't. And I have no capacity for bullshit, my own or anybody else's. And so the reason that I'm saying that is if you're a woman in your 40s or 50s or 60s or 70s, and you know this feeling, right? I think in our 40s, we are still working through it a little bit, but you can fast track that now. You can decide right now that I'm not looking back because one of the things we tend to do is look back. It's like, well, when I was 35, if I had have just done that thing, then by now, that sort of thing. I think we all do that to some extent. Like, I don't look back anymore because back is not going to get me there. Like, I've got to look forward. And my body is different now. My face is actually, since I had all the filler and everything removed, this is actually my face. So I feel good about that. But it's like things are changing, right? My skin isn't as luminescent as it once was, right? Like there's so many things that are changing physically that, we can't help. Like we can do the work, right? We're going to, do whatever we want to do to make ourselves feel better. And that's the decline in the physical. I don't think we have to decline actually, but, we are going to age to some extent, right? But our brains actually get better every year. And I've always said the most interesting thing about me is not the way that I look, it's what's between my ears. That is always going to be the most compelling thing about me. That is the moneymaker. What's between my ears, not this. The society that we live in dictates that, attractive people, or the more attractive people in our society, tend to have an easier time. I agree with you. I 100% agree with that. Is it fair? No. And we know that white women have an easier time than black women. Is that fair? No, it's not. We're going to have to deal with what we are dealt with. And for some of us, it's going to be a lot, and for others it's going to be a little bit, but we can always move forward, and we can always look at where we are right now and ask ourselves these questions. What are my strengths right now? What is an underutilized skill that I have right now? What are the opportunities that I can create for myself right now? And just keep marching forward in that direction. This was going to be a video about like staying fit, and I think I will come back and do another video about that. I looked on my YouTube channel and I had a look at the stats, and you know how it's like, which is the most popular? The most popular one is food prep. I did food prep. It's about entrepreneurship and food prep. So you can go and watch that one, and go and I had the filter on back then. Like, go and have a look at that video versus now. And I feel like, because I like myself better, I'm more accepting of myself. I also know what works for me now more than I did back then. Like my hair, I always used to beat myself up. Like, wear your hair out. Like, do make more of an effort. Wear your hair out. As I get older, it looks better up because it pulls everything back. So it's like I look better with my hair up. So do I want to force myself to go and pull out my Dyson Airwrap and do my curls and all the rest of it? Or do I want to just keep it simple and know that my hair actually looks better back? So let's just go with that. Let's not fight it anymore. And it's good because it's fast, right? I mean, it's a little bit foofy. I could have spent a bit more. I didn't even straighten it, but like, it'll straighten out over the coming days. It's fine. Anyway, so that I was going to do a video about fitness and taking care of yourself, but I think I'll leave that for another video. And let's just leave this one about hormones and life experiences and being a woman who is aging online, who is dealing with all the stuff that we're dealing with, as whether it's parenthood and we're dealing with children, or whether it's aging parents, or the shit that's going on in your marriage right now, or whatever it is. We are all going through something at pretty much all of the time, right? Look at life. We have these moments where everything's fine and dandy and amazing, and we're like, yay, make the most of it, because the next battle is going to come up, and it's usually not yours. It's going to be something to do with somebody else, and it's going to impact you. But you can still do your job. You can still show up. So look for strategies for dealing with things in the moment. So a big one, and it felt so huge at the time, was me losing my train of thought on my podcast interviews. That felt really debilitating to me because I felt like an idiot. But it's like, okay, cool. We're going to do them, but we're going to keep our answers short. And it worked for me, right? And now I don't need to worry about it so much. I don't need to worry about it at all. But back then I did, and I wondered if my brain would ever come back. I didn't even know it was peri-menopause. And so find the strategies, use the fucking filter if you need to use the filter. Spend a bit more time on your hair and makeup if that's what's going to make you feel good. You don't have to, though, right? You can do it however you want. And always, always, always remember this. Your brain is more interesting, and it's your most attractive feature. Your brain is the money maker. Your brain is your greatest asset. So use it, because that brain contains so much wisdom and experience, and that is a commodity, right? That's the something that the 20-somethings don't have. Show me, I mean, yeah, we see these examples all the time of a 20-something who blows up on social media, and they're selling their digital courses and they're making millions of dollars. Like, that's great. I love that for them. Like, I really do. I'm not being facetious. But show me somebody who's been through it, who's still in it, who's succeeding and having a season of success, who's overcome seasons of challenge, right? And they know that they can have another season of the shit hitting the fan and they're going to be okay. Like, they understand that this is just a season, and they're just going to ride it out. They're going to do the best that they can in that moment, and then they're going to get back on the horse and they're going to kick it, right? No, don't kick the horse. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're going to just go for it because they understand like, okay, this moment of feeling like I'm on my upward trajectory, like we got to make the most of this right now because every time we do that, we create momentum and it carries us further. So when we're hit with another challenge, then we know that we're already further than we were before we hit the challenge. And then when we come out of the other side of it, we just pick up our bat and ball and we keep going because we know how to do that because it's just who we are now. So, you know, we're going to go through hormone challenges. We're going to go through relationship issues. We're going to go through parenting issues. We're going to go through, you know, our parents' issues. We're going to go through a lot of different stuff that doesn't even relate to business, right? Forget about the fact that your freaking marketing strategy isn't working, or you're attracting the wrong type of clients, or you've got a client from hell, or that you've invested all this money in this thing and it didn't work out. Like, forget about that. Like, that's just normal entrepreneurship. That's a shit that men deal with all the time. And they just walk through it. They march through it for the most part, right? We're dealing with all of that. And we're dealing with our hormones, and we're dealing with our kids, and we're dealing with our parents, and we're dealing with our part, you know, all the things. And so women are fucking amazing, and women in their 40s and 50s are even more so. And I'm sure by the time I get to 60, and, you know, I'm going to have a moment about that because what the fuck? But it's like, that's cool because I know that my market will be aging with me and my message will still be relevant for them. The way that I do things is still going to be relevant for them because I am always evolving. I feel very youthful. My brain is very youthful and I'll always continue to be that way. And that's always going to be my strength, right? So lean into your strengths, do the very best that you can. And if you're in a season of struggle right now, for whatever reason, remind yourself it's a season, it will pass, and that in the meantime, you just got to show up and do the very best that you can. And that's all you need to do because it will pass. It always does, right? We've been on the planet a while now, and we know that these things are cyclic and they come around, and we just got to hang on because we're going to pop out at the other side of it sometime very soon. Anyway, completely different type of video to what I thought I would be creating today, but I hope it was valuable. I'll be back tomorrow with some more businessy type stuff, and I will do the fitness, well-being, eating right sort of thing for entrepreneurs sometime in the next week or so, I'm sure. Anyway, that is it. I will see you next time. Bye.